Hey everybody, Preston Flatt back again with my former Mormon missionary companion, and from the world headquarters of Preston Flatt, from the catacombs, and indeed from deep within the bowels of Preston Flatt, we bring you this really cool message. Man, it's so easy to get kicked around in the world just by mismatching it. So what the heck's this idea of rapport? Rapport is a way that you can match the items of consideration in your world. Like if someone comes up to you and they're doing whatever they're doing in life, is there some way that you can match what they're about? And if so, what is the technique to do that? Is there some technique that you can use to do that? And that's what I'm going to teach you in this video. The challenge, though, is if you can match perfectly that person, that item of consideration, then are you also matching the other items of consideration around you? Like suppose you're really devoted to one person, listening to them, following them, and just really, really close connection. But in doing that, you're ignoring something else, and the result isn't good. So I'm going to talk about universal rapport and how to confidently, with absolute certainty, know that you are in the right place at the right time. It's an actual technique, and it involves using the frame of the human body to set up the equivalent of an old-fashioned scale. And this is done by sampling a point on one side and then a point on the other. And then the person, the one that samples the 2 points, where are they? Well, since they chose a point on one side and a point on the other, they are in the midst of them. And it kind of matches this Christian idea. Jesus said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Now, of course, it makes sense that would be where two or three believers are gathered, But the cool thing is it also works if instead of believers, it's where two or more points are gathered. So there is a way to actually sample two or more points, and having sampled these points, to rest in the midst of them. And so what you've done is basically you set up the equivalent of an old-fashioned scale or yoke, like a Christian yoke, or like a cross, because you're literally resting in the place between opposites. And some would say it's kind of a straight and narrow place. Well, gee, why would they say that? Because you're resting, in this example, you could consider there's a place between right and left. So, and then you just tell me, you just answer this, how straight and how narrow is the place between right and left? I mean, that's pretty straight and pretty narrow. And it may seem kind of like unrelated, but even in the Christian tradition, they talk about enter in at the straight gate. So, and abide in me, you point to yourself. Well, not in an arrogant way, but, Jesus is the one that said the kingdom of God is within you. It's not low here, low there, but it's within you. So it's not just Christianity, but so many of the main traditions have the Hridayam, the heart. There's the tradition of Ramana Maharshi, where he says, trace the I thought, the thought of I, to its origin. And the Buddha and all of that. The Buddha has its middle way, So this is a pretty wild thing. I'm not just going to be yapping about theory and stuff. I'm actually going to teach you how to do this. So let's start right now. You need to gather 2 points, right, in order to rest in the midst of them and know what is in the midst of them. So you could gather pretty much any 2 points you wanted. For this example, though, I find it easiest to use the sitting bones, the place where when you sit, you meet the chair. Doesn't that make sense? There's a sitting bone on one side of the body and a sitting bone on the other. And so simply, all you do is just feel them evenly. How would you do that? Well, you could correct the physical posture, like if I'm feeling this one more than the other one, and I lean this way, now I'm really feeling it more than the other one. So it's possible to correct the posture and to know spot on the very instant that you return to the sweet spot, which is not to the right, not to the left. And it matches this place between right and left, which also matches when the Christians do this. You know how they do that? There's a vertical axis. But also, there's a place that's just right that also doesn't miss the mark between too much and too little, between too high and too low. And that represents this part of it. And so actually use the frame of the human body in your life, in your experience. And you can literally take up this cross, it's been called by some genius. Oh, I guess I called it that. That's stupid. No, but it's been called the mystical cross of Christianity. You guys, sometimes you get too serious about stuff, so lighten up, will you? Isn't that right, brother? Yeah, man, you better lighten up, will you? Okay. So now we're back to the technique, though. So you're sitting there trying to feel both sitting bones evenly, and even as I talk to you, right? It's not only me talking to you and you watching the video and everything, but all the world around you is changing continually, man. You have when you breathe, you're breathing in different particles of air than you ever breathed in before in your life. There may be sounds in the room that you would respond to, like a loud sound on one side that you want to move away from, or a sweet, sweet sound of some beautiful person on the side that you want to move toward. What I'm trying to tell you is that as you practice balance in this world, you'll tend to move toward things that you like, and that's manifested in a leaning out of this place of balance. So you'll move toward things you like and away from things you don't like. And even if on an item-by-item basis, you can't really figure out, well, am I leaning because of that or what? You don't even have to know, man. Because accumulatively, in the place that you practice this kind of steadiness and balance, and in fact, universal rapport, cumulatively, it results in a lean. And so you're able to simply hold to and abide in me, which is the word for the indwelling place of devotion, in the place where you are. And you know, Jesus said that. He said, abide in me. I mean, a lot of traditions say, yeah, you just do one thing, believe, accept this, accept that, and then you're good to go. But then you got things to do, like abide in me. What's that supposed to mean? Does it mean I'm supposed to read my scriptures all the time and pray and, you know, attend all my meetings on Sunday? Or does it mean, you know, something else? Or enter in at the straight gate. How in the heck are you going to do that? Where's the straight gate? You guys got any ideas? Well, at least consider this idea that there's a place that can be found in the place between opposites, which is also, if you set up this kind of a scale, it's also a place of rest where the one that is resting in the midst of these opposites, where that person is, or that it's a place where I am, as Jesus said, you know. Like if you had to point to yourself, you'd say, I am here, right? But I'm not saying you should point to me and try and, you know, like No, I'm not talking about myself. You point to yourself. You set up this scale and you rest in the midst of all the changes of life, man. So that's how to set up the scale. And then as life presents itself to you, even if you're trying to feel both sitting bones evenly, eventually you'll catch it. Hey, wait, I'm leaning. Okay, so you can correct your posture by just simply returning to feeling both of them evenly. So you can physically correct it by adjusting the posture in this way, but now I want to teach you another way. And this is where it gets really profound, because in the teaching of Buddha it says that it's all done with the mind. They're talking about the mind. So what happens is, suppose, okay, so feel both sitting bones evenly, right? So you're pretty balanced, right? But now just put your mind on this one. Just feel that. So do you see that just putting your mind on that one, that you feel that one more? And then now just put your mind on that one, and then you can feel that one more. So this practice doesn't even so much teach you to use force to force your way back to the center, but it teaches you that if you find your place off, that you're leaning, you can shift your mind to this side. Like if you're leaning this way, you can shift your mind to this side in such a way that the net change is zero. And I've talked about this in another video, but here's how it works. You've seen those racing boats, right, with a big sail? And sometimes, like in the America's Cup, you'll see that during the race, the boat looks like it's leaning right the heck over. It's like, man, that thing's going to tip over. It looks pretty scary, but what happens is when it starts to tip, the crew, the people on the boat, they go to this side and they lean off of this side, right? And then when the boat rights itself, the people can come back to the center if they want. And then if the boat leans this way, the people lean off that way, so that the net change through it all is still zero, and there's still a middle way. So what this means is that you use this way of practicing with the posture as a clue, but eventually, just training in this way, you can move your mind in such a way as to abide in and be in the sweet spot in spite of the physical posture, man. Like even if you're just walking down the street or whatever you're doing, this is pretty wild stuff. But this is a way to set up a yoke, like a Christian yoke, if you want to consider that. I mean, it might not even be part of your tradition, and if it isn't, that's cool. You may be absolutely good to go with whatever brand you have. I'm just saying, if you're interested in mystical Christianity or in any of these other world traditions that talk about like a middle way, and to trace the I thought to its source and to find the ego and all of that stuff, they're all on the same page, man, if you're talking about books. And so this technique is a way to have universal rapport, because besides right and left, let's just use the example of right and left, okay? They're opposites. Wouldn't you say that? For at least for this consideration, one side is the right and the other side's the left. But those aren't the only opposites. Any set of opposites, you can find this. You can also find it between overreacting and underreacting. And what's between overreacting and underreacting? And I'll tell you, it's being exactly right and not missing the mark. So which you think that sounds great, but how in the flippin' heck am I going to figure out how to do that? I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and everything around me is happening so fast. I may think of the right thing to do for this item of consideration, but what about the other one? And that's why we come back to this idea of setting up the scale, because when you set up the scale, all you do is simply abide in the place, in the midst of all the changes of life. And you will feel within you the arrival of what I call them prodigal expressions. They're simply invitations, like this set of circumstances will present itself. So what are you going to do now? Simple no-brainer solution, just don't lean. Just abide in me. Just, as Jesus said, love me more than these. And that means just only because you know this middle way, you know this scale. And this really is the wisdom of the Buddha. Because it's wisdom, it's actually a tutor, it's instructional, it's educational, because the very instant that you lean, you know with certainty exactly which way to return. And with the scale, when you arrive at balance, you know spot on that you're in the right place at the right time. And so you can literally forsake the world. You can be in the world, but if you don't get caught up in it, then you're not of the world. You can trust in this place with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. And I just want to say that this place is the place of freedom, because even just the example of the boat, when the boat was leaning, remember? And the people knew with certainty that they had to go to this side and lean off of it. But this is the boat here. But when the boat returned, at this point, the people were free. They could walk around, they could sip on pina coladas, they could play a game of checkers, they could lay out in the sun, relax. Of course, it's during the America's Cup race, so they're probably not going to be doing that. But I want to say that the point of balance is the point of strength. It is the point of freedom. The point of leisure. You can go through life without getting beat up in life. And when you're balanced, you are spot on. And you are free, because from a place of balance, you can go to the front, the back, left, right, any direction, because you're all arrived. You're all together. You're all in one place. But if you were to find yourself like this, whoa, wheeling your arms or something, trying to regain your balance, man, you're at least one step removed from that freedom. Because first, you gotta, step one, regain your balance, so that now you're at the choice point, at the decision point. And then at this point, step two, then you can do what you're gonna do. So there are scientific ways, man, experiential, to be spot on in life. One of them is setting up the scales in this kind of a way to find the place that is good to go and balanced, the place of freedom, the place that does not miss the mark, as considered in this body and in being in the midst of a changing world. Now there are people that say, yeah, you're not attached to any of the changes around you, you know. But, you know, this is a way to practice in your place. I mean, where you are, and because you want to get through life ideally without getting too beat up, and that means don't mismatch the current demands of your place in life. Like if there's a big old circular power saw just zipping around like that, you could mismatch the demands of that moment and just put your flipping arm right through the thing and cut your arm off and probably be dead within like 5 minutes. But can you see that because you mismatched that set of circumstances, you didn't survive in this physical world. You got obviously beat up quite a lot, quite fast. So part of the game is to stay alive in this world and not get too beat up. And the other example I sometimes give is like an automobile that's you're in a car driving along. And if you don't have something like this scale, this yoke, you don't know when you're off track. That's the person that when they may even be holding the steering wheel in the right place. They may even have their foot on the exact perfect place over the pedal. But if they're a new driver and you were to take a look at them from above, and then you magnified the overcorrections, it would look like they're zigzagging, you know, because they just don't have the experience and it just doesn't register when they're off track, and then they try to correct, and so that creates like a rough journey in life. If they don't correct in a timely manner, they'll hit the wall, and then they might overcorrect and hit the median strip, and so their car's getting all beat up in life. And what does that cause? It causes them to get unfinished business, because now they got to sit around and wait for the car to get repaired. It takes longer, so they have a loss of time. It takes longer to zigzag like that than it does just to go straight. Suppose somehow they're able to not hit the wall, but they're still zigzagging, right? Does that mean the car's not getting wear and tear and stress? No, man, the car's really having a rough time. The shocks, everything is getting, it's not a smooth experience is what I'm trying to say, even if they can somewhat correct it. So the trick, the task in life to get from point A to point B and to not get too beat up is to find the sweet spot, the middle way, the place that for any consideration, any set of circumstances is just exactly right. So how do you do that? You simply set up a scale. And then, come what may, you just don't lean. You just love me more than these. And that comes to the example of the Bible where Jesus he just showed up one day, man, and he was just simply right there, smack dab where he was. And there were two sisters. One was Mary, one was Martha. Mary came over and she just sat smack dab right in front of Jesus like this. But Martha, her sister, was off to the side, toiling, spinning, doing all kinds of efforting, because she thought, well, if we're going to have a decent get-together, I got to get the food ready, I got to get it cleaned, I have all these tasks and projects I got to do. Dang it, I want to do like Mary's doing, but I got to do all this stuff. So Martha, the one that was doing all that stuff, she said, Jesus, will you please tell Mary to come over here and help me? I got all this stuff to do. And she's just sitting there doing nothing. But what did Jesus say? He didn't say, Mary, you go help your sister and quit screwing around and being lazy. No, he said, Mary has chosen the one good thing. Jesus was simply there smack dab facing Mary, and Mary was smack dab facing Jesus. And if Mary had turned away, she would sense instantly when she had turned, and she would know exactly how much to turn back until she was facing Jesus flat on. And that's because this is the wisdom of the Buddha, and it's the same flippin' thing. And because you can sample a point on one side and a point on the other and use them as references so as to rest in the middle place. So the world does present itself to you. And with each unique presentation in this world is a unique invitation to answer the question that Jesus asked over and over again. He said, "What? Are you guys?" Did he say, "Are you guys ready for lunch?" No. Did he say, "Oh, you ready to go fishing?" Well, he might have said that. No. He didn't do any of that. He said, he asked this question. He says, "Lovest thou me more than these?" He asks it over and over again. And the person that loves me more than these, and that means not me here, but point to your own heart, that's the person that when these invitations come, such as a Martha off to the side saying, "Come wash these dishes," or "You need to sweep the floor." And Mary, she heard it, but she didn't lean. And it may seem that it didn't match that as to her relationship with Martha. But who are you going to trust? Is there one good thing? Somebody said there was, and Jesus said that Mary had chosen the one good thing. So what this does is it gives you certainty. If you ever wondered in this world, well, should I sit straighter? Should I slump more? Someone says, "Smile, you dummy. Why don't you smile more?" So you think, well, maybe I should smile more. So you try to put on a smile, but then you realize it's fake. And then you think, well, what kind of smile should I put? And you got all these millions of decisions that you're going to make as to how to be in this world. Those are the tasks that Martha had. You can simply throw all of those away and choose this one good thing, which is simply to set up the scale. And no matter how the world presents itself to you, always simply hold to this place that doesn't miss the mark. It's a place of strength, and it informs your place in this world. So that when people come up to you, if you overreact to them or underreact to them, you're not going to respond in a way that welcomes them. It's like the story of the prodigal son. Remember, there's the guy with the house, the rich man, and his son wanted to go out. The son wanted to love these more than me. So the son went out, his son, and he walked around through the world. He looked everywhere. He was toiling and spinning everywhere. And then finally he realized, man, there's no place like home. And so he comes back to the place that is still there, the place of welcoming, the place that it was a landing place for him. And so in your life, you've got life always changing around you, and all kinds of chances and invitations to get caught up in the world. And if you're trying to figure it out, good luck, you geniuses. But if you want to actually know how to take no thought for the morrow, the way you can do that is to set up the scale and with the pure mind, simply watch the place that doesn't lean and be in that place, no matter how the world may move and change. So it's a way of practicing, and practicing in this way, it does create not just rapport, but universal rapport, because you can trust this wisdom of the Buddha, this resting in the place between left and right, because it's a place of reconciliation. It's a place that doesn't miss the mark. It's a place that, if there was a dartboard in front of you with a target, and your task was to keep efforting until you could hit the bullseye. But then once you hit the bullseye, it represents the end of all efforting, because you finally did it. And when you find the place between opposites and learn how to abide here using this technique of the Christian yoke or scale, it is the end of efforting. Or it's that you are almost like in a place of devotion. It's almost like you're plowing the field and you're not looking back, because you feel the very instant that you start to lean, and with certainty you know where to be and how to be, any time and place. And that gives the words, the Christian words, "it is finished," much meaning. So there's a place between left and right that matches when Jesus died and the veil of the temple was rent in twain, creating a place in the middle. There's the eye of the hurricane, where you have all the turbulent world to the outside, but if you can somehow find the landmarks of the internal eye walls of the hurricane and come just inside of those and use that as a reference for where to be, you can abide in peace in the midst of a changing world. There's the Catholic tradition where they have the host and they break it, creating a place right in the middle. There is the altar with candles evenly on each side and a place in the middle. There are the hands of the priest, often lifted like this, and you think, well, why would that be? One on this side, one on this side. And even, now this is pretty profound, as if some of the other stuff wasn't that profound, but even when Jesus died, I like to think he had his choice of how he could offer his life up. But he chose not just to stand there with one hand on one side, one on the other, but he wanted it emphasized so that it would never, ever be forgotten. He wanted it nailed down. He said, man, I don't know that he actually said that, but can you see that he nailed it down? It was nailed down, one on this side, one on this side, and between the two, what was it? Jesus himself, the place of Jesus, which matches. I like to think all these great spiritual leaders were on the same team. Now, if that doesn't match your tradition, it's no big deal, man. I think you're probably good to go as you are, and I'm not even trying to represent your brand, but I'm just saying this is a way of considering mystical Christianity and how it can match Advaita Vedanta, the teachings of the Buddha, the Middle Way, the Tao Te Ching, all of these great traditions, which have different terms, different names for essentially the same thing. So it's a pretty great, pretty fun, amazing way to practice. And I have to say it matches the joy that surfers get when they put one foot on one side of a surfboard, one on the other side of a surfboard, and they find the place and they rest between them. They sink their center of gravity in the middle. And then the sport, the game of life, is what are the waves going to do? And I'll practice this in all kinds of settings and places. Same with skateboarders, one foot on one side, one on the other, and between the two they sink their center of gravity. And then they do that in all kinds of settings. And you got to check out my other video, which is how to mystically surf or skateboard without a board. Because when you can set up this kind of a scale, you can sit in the middle of the most flippin' boring thing you've ever been in your whole life. You're sitting there thinking, this is crap. I'm just wasting my time, you know. But then you remember, wait a minute, I can set up a scale. So you sample one point, you sample another one, and then even in the midst of the boredom, you surf that. You surf any sounds that arrive. That sound's making me lean in one way or another. Well, how can I hold to this sweet spot? Something you see, you know, something you feel. It's cool. So, and then so that's something that it may have existed in the mystical teachings of some of these traditions, but to the best of my knowledge, this idea of surfing without a surfboard is something I developed, and that when I visited Swami Swahananda back, I don't know, like 30 or so years ago, to get initiated, I showed him that, and he he gave me some additional ideas on how to do it. One of the things, he had a way of counting on the fingers as if with beads, but he had that for his tradition. He had his own way of doing that. And he didn't really explain it to me, this idea of not leaning to the right, not leaning to the left. But I found, I actually also developed this way of using the fingers to, within the Catholic tradition, for any of you that might be Catholics, how to use the segments of the fingers as if they are beads. And then, using this example of surfing, right? You gather a point on one side, a point on the other, and you simply rest between the two without leaning. But then you physically switch it up in such a way that even within the frame of your own body, there is an apparent lack of symmetry. So you keep one as it was, and then you begin to count to the next bead position. So what you have is, externally, you have a difference from one side to another. But even with that difference, through it all, you still hold to this one place. So you practice through all these infinite variety of changes, that no matter what the external change, even with the frame of your own body, you can still hold to and surf this one good thing. So it's pretty cool, and it's a way that people in the Catholic tradition, I don't know, sometimes they're persecuted, man. Sometimes you're at work and you just want to be praying the rosary, but you know that if you pull your rosary out and start counting the beads in front of your boss is going to think, man, will you quit goofing off? But if you don't do that, then you're really goofing off. I mean, you don't want to waste time. Same in the military. You're supposed to be on guard duty. And I shouldn't say that. No, but in the military too. Suppose you're just standing around, you're supposed to just be looking good. Look alert, will you? Look alert. But you can actually hold these rosary bead positions, and you can count any time, any place that it's safe, and that you reasonably can do it. And so, but the point is, there's no beads for anybody to come around and say, man, you're a slacker. Give me those beads, or put them away. Because if they say, show me your hands, you go like this. And there's nothing there. They are hidden in plain sight. Rosary beads right on the segments of the hands. So that's another thing that I put on my website, PrestonFlatt.com. Look at the ones on how to pray the rosary without beads. That's pretty cool too. And it all fits this. It's a way to be in the world, and to be in the world without losing balance, without mismatching the presentations of the world as they arrive, and in so doing, a way of having universal rapport with all the changes of life, welcoming back the prodigal expressions of this world in the place between opposites, the place that doesn't overreact or underreact. And so I hope you like that. Hey, I need you to sponsor me or something, man, because my channel, we're not getting any sponsors or anything. So would you please look through all the links below and just think, man, this guy looks desperate. Isn't there something we can buy or help him out with? Just look through all the links and say, yeah, that looks kind of crummy, but man, I guess I could get one just to put that sucker out of his misery. Please like and subscribe, recommend this video, and maybe buy something, if you will. With much love, me and my former missionary buddy, we say, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Love you. Bye.